Well, we've been waiting for, the details on Fortis, and turns out that the street does not like one bit the comments that have come in from the Supreme Court. Just a few things that we have that Ashmit, our correspondent, has said to us. He's saying that the Supreme Court orders continuation of the stay on IHH open offer. And that's a negative surprise because most on the street were hoping that, there would be some respite coming in out there and that would be a massive overhang that would have gone. But turns out that no, the stay on that open offer will continue. And that's perhaps we've seen that sharp adverse reaction on the downside. A 6% dip is what we're seeing, Nigel.
Yeah, that's right, Mangalam. Two negatives for me out there. One is they're talking about a forensic audit to be conducted on the deal. And they are also the High Court to consider appointments of forensic auditor whether such transactions were bona fide. So that's point number one. And the second factor is there's no relief that's come on the open offer front because the Supreme Court, they have, there's a stay on the IHH open offer. That will continue, and that's a setback in itself. And the Supreme Court has directed the Delhi High Court to consider appointments of forensic auditor. Ashmit joins us. He's bringing us all this information. For the time being, the Fortis stock has sold off big time from the day stop. Ashmit, fill us in.
Well, let's keep in mind that this Fortis-IHH deal, which transpired in August of 2018, has been in the wings for a very long time now. IHH acquired 31%, $1.1 billion. The key aspect, however, was the open offer of 26%, which the Supreme Court had stayed in December of 2018. Now, what's important is that IHH finds itself in the middle of a tussle that featured Daiichi as well as the Singh brothers and, of course, Fortis. Now, what's important is that Daiichi essentially has argued that there are a number of vagaries, there are issues with the deal itself in terms of shares owned by the Singh brothers being pledged before certain lenders and then subsequently featuring as a part of the deal. Moreover, there have been questions that the Supreme Court has also raised in terms of how these share proceeds had been utilized and how they had been dealt with. And on account of that, the Supreme Court has said that at this stage, it will not be taking a decision on how to proceed with this matter. However, what it has said is that the Delhi High Court, which is the executing court in this case, will now go ahead and decide on the future course of action. What that effectively means is that the Supreme Court has not cleared the IHH open offer, has not lifted the stay, has not vacated the stay. It has simply now shifted the burden now to the Delhi High Court. The Delhi High Court will be the one that will now decide on the fate of this open offer. But not just that. What's important is that given that previously the Supreme Court had expressed some reservations and concerns on the bona fides of the deal itself, the Supreme Court now has gone ahead and suggested to the Delhi High Court on appointing a forensic auditor to verify these transactions.
Okay, all right. Ashmit, thanks so much for joining in and filling us in with those details. I believe we have Mr. Ranina as well, who's joining in to give us his first take. Morning, Mr. Ranina. Thanks so much for joining in. Well, a couple of negatives coming in there. They're talking about reporting, about appointing a forensic auditor. And the second factor is there's a stay on that open offer. They continue that as well. What's your initial reaction on this front?
Well, I think the Supreme Court wants to allow the stay to continue. Let's take a piece. Will not vacate the stay. So I think
I think we've got you on a bit of a scratchy line, Mr. Ranina. We'll just try to repatch that connection with you. But currently, the fact that the Supreme Court has announced this stay, the question is whether there could be any, legal recourse on it or not. But there's been a violent reaction on the downside for Fortis. Now the cuts have, moved into double digits as well. 11% cut on the Fortis stock itself. Let's go across to Ekta wants to understand how this would impact the business of Fortis going ahead. Ekta, this was a major overhang. It was expected to lift, and turns out it hasn't.
Well, yes, definitely a disappointment which has come in for the shareholders, for Fortis, as well as question marks on whether or not IHH would actually reconsider the amount of commitment they have shown towards the entire Fortis deal. So, for example, if we have Mr. Ranina on the line, I just wanted to ask him a question with regards to the particular deal. Mr. Ranina, now, as Ashmit pointed out, it's probably going to go back to the Delhi High Court from the Supreme Court. And they have said that one needs to probably consider a forensic auditor when it comes to this particular deal, IHH, and how they in fact won the bidding process in 2018. What do you think would be the process going forward? Because at that point in time, this was a very well publicized and scrutinized deal and bidding process. So in your opinion, what can we expect now?
No, it will. The Delhi High Court will go ahead with the appointment of the forensic auditor. Of course, the other side can also suggest a name, and once the two parties suggest a name, they will decide on the forensic auditor, and then the work will commence. So I think the matter will go on for a few months until the report of the forensic auditor is obtained. And there again, then the Delhi High Court will come to a considered view. Subsequently, again, the matter will go back to the Supreme Court if any party is aggrieved by the Delhi High Court verdict.
Okay, so is there a possibility that IHH's shareholding of 31% could then be questioned, and there could maybe be, what could be the most adverse outcome? I'm just stopping short of saying whether or not there could be any kind of rebidding process in any form or manner. Would that be a possible adverse worst case scenario that we should probably consider?
No, I don't think so, because the shareholding issue will, I don't think, be considered by the forensic auditor. Forensic auditors go into the accounts and other issues. So long as the shareholding is intact, if at all somebody wants to change the shareholding, he has to go to SEBI, not to any auditor or anybody else. So shareholding pattern will not be disturbed by this forensic audit.
Okay. How soon do you think we could probably hear on the open offer details when it comes to the Delhi High Court? And what could be the biggest reservations or roadblocks? Because this Supreme Court hearing has been going on since December 2018. We're in 2022. Give us a sense in terms of how long could it probably take for the Delhi High Court to come to a resolution, at least when it comes to an open offer. Would it then be after the forensic audit, logically?
Yes, it would be after the forensic audit. So it all depends on how long the auditors take with their forensic audit to give their report, which then will be submitted to the Delhi High Court. I think once that is done, the Delhi High Court should be able to dispose of the matter within a matter of a couple of months.
Okay.
So really the timeline is with the forensic auditor and how soon they can give a report.
And how would the forensic auditor be then chosen? What would the process on that be?
Well, both parties will be asked to give their names, and in possibility the High Court will then decide the proof if it is available. If
it's still a little unclear on as far as the line's concerned, but we did get a lot of what Mr. Ranina had to say. We also have Shriram Subramanian, who's the founder and MD at InGovern, joining us on the phone line. What do you make of this? Your initial thoughts, Shriram? It looks like the can has been kicked down the road for all those who were hoping for a favorable resolution, the shareholders, that is.
Yeah, good morning. Yes, we had asked for a forensic audit in 2018 itself, much before any of this took place. And obviously, it's been stuck in courts and nobody seems to be interested in pursuing this in haste. And at the end of the day, even if an open offer is made, the open offer is going to fail anyway because the price which IHS is offering is it's just a procedural matter. What was important was a forensic audit to determine what is the flow of funds, whether IHH was in collusion with the promoters of Fortis in the first place when they acquired the shares, what is the amount that they paid to the promoters. All these issues should have been sort of resolved in post-haste, I would think. And 4.5 years down the line, we are still at the start. That is a tragedy.
Shriram, let's talk about this back in 2018. I remember clearly that this was a very clear-cut bidding process which took place. It was highly publicized at that point in time. There was a new board in place as well. We had a new constitution of complete independent board members. So it was a very clear-cut, publicized deal. So in that context, what do you think a forensic audit will probably throw up, and what is the risk of the forensic audit at this point, according to you?
No, see, both could have been done parallelly. I mean, the open offer could have gone ahead, as well as forensic audit could have been done parallelly into the funds which were there, even into the embezzlement of funds from Fortis before. Now the risk is obviously, one is IHH is going to lose interest in taking the company forward to if any further investment needs to be made. Probably that will also be held back. So the company is just going to be where it is, and no growth at all.
Okay, you know, Shriram, I just wanted to bring that point forward, because that's been the big point of contention, that, you know, IHH's commitment might be questioned now to Fortis simply because of the to and fro when it comes to this particular deal. So, however, since 2018, if you chart the performance of Fortis, it's actually been only on an up move. If you look at the Q1 FY23 numbers, they recorded some of the best statistics in terms of, you know, their surgical revenue. Their margins have improved in terms of the hospital business. But yes, do you think that IHH could probably put their stake up for sale simply because of this kind of uncertainty which has been going on since 2018?
No, that would be too thin a skin for IHH to let go, where they have already invested millions of dollars. So I don't think they will walk away so soon. But at the end of the day, they also would like to see this entire forensic audit behind. So they should also work with the authorities to ensure that the forensic audit is undertaken in quick haste.
Okay, but Shriram, you know, at this point in time, what would you be probably recommending to your clients when it comes to Fortis? Hold on to positions, sell the positions you have, buy further. What is the advice that you're probably fielding right now or giving to your clients in terms of the key questions they have?
We don't usually make buy, sell, hold decisions unlike the equity research analysts. So I will ask that question.
Right. Thanks so much, Mr. Subramanian, for joining in and filling us in with your quick comment. And thanks, Ekta, as well, for joining in. Well, Mayuresh Joshi of William O'Neill as well joins in. Mayuresh, what do you do with the stock? You know, currently it's getting pummeled. It's down close to around 14%. Or the hope was that there will be some relief and there will be a re-rating. Now, that's not happened. What's your view from here on?
Good morning, Nigel. No, absolutely. I think that was hope, right? And hope is the right word that you probably used. But with the kind of judgment that has come in, I think the overhang probably still persists onto the stock at this point of time. I was hearing Ekta out in terms of the numbers that they had posted. So no two ways about the numbers, Nigel. The plans that they've got specifically after Q1 in terms of adding on 1,300, 1,500 bed in the next 4 years by brownfield, the international contribution expected to reach 12% from 7%. The diagnostic business guidance has been maintained at 22%. And the capex is at 400 crores with equal proportions for growth. So in that sense, I think the core parameters are showing signs of improvement. But with the kind of overhang, specifically in terms of this judgment that keeps on continuing for the stock and the price performance that has got exhibited specifically after the judgment, I think it's better to hold up. Just to wait out for the stock. Currently holding out a very neutral kind of a view, specifically in terms of the judgment in question.
Mayuresh, you know, I just had one quick question. Do you think that now with the kind of interest we've seen in the healthcare space, there's so much interest in terms of new players entering the market? Adani has formed a new subsidiary when it comes to healthcare. Do you think that Fortis could probably become an acquisition or an M&A potential play simply because of this kind of uncertainty and maybe IHH's possible frustration with it?
That could be a possibility, Ekta, but I think it's too speculative at this point of time. But yes, for the space in general, I think the kind of macro factors that are working in its favor, both with an asset-light model that a lot of players are pursuing, medical tourism coming back with a bang, we're probably seeing a lot more happening in terms of the new hospitals actually contributing, with opt-in surgeries actually accelerating over the last few months and expected to do so over the next few quarters. And the pharmacy and the diagnostics business holding on for these hospital chains as well. So I think as a space, I think there is sufficient enough of triggers going forward. But I think it will be quite speculative in terms of whether anybody probably
right, Mayuresh, thanks a lot for joining in. The short point eventually is that the shareholders aren't happy at all with this pronouncement that has come from the Supreme Court. And we can see the result down, the stock down almost 16%. In fact, in this swoop itself, it's turned negative for the year. And before this, there were a few long positions being added on Fortis. It was just around 4 to 5% away from its 52-week high. And today we've seen a near 50 rupee correction on the stock price itself, down virtually at the low point of trade with a cut of 16%. So that's about Fortis for now. We take a short break, come back, talk about more news and updates on the other side.